We ball. So, today's objective is a really nice simple start. So, all I want to do is get the model for a grappling hook worked out. Now, in the game that I'm working on, which is called Grapple Knights, the idea is that it's a melee hack and slash kind of game with a lot of traversal around the map based on a reusable grappling hook. If you've ever played games like old school Worms, the ninja rope in there, that's what really inspired me. And then more recently, the finals. The lights have a really good grappling hook. Feels very fluid, but it's a limited option that only you have to sacrifice something else out of your equipment. And I feel like the one thing I'd really love out of a game is the ability to continuously keep that swinging element going while having the rest of the game open to different options, mobility and weapon wise, and that sort of thing. So that game doesn't exist, so I'm going to try and make it so. So a grappling hook. In the meantime, this is a thing that I can model up before trying to get my head around Unreal. Now, I have given this some thought. You've got your traditional grappling hook, so if I just sketch this out for a second, you've got like your spiked tines, if you will, on a hook like that, with a body, sometimes a curved body, hook on the end like that, throw it over the wall or into a nook or cranny or whatever, pull down, and hopefully those tines grip in. I like that idea in principle, but if we're doing a realistic grappling hook, fair enough, you want to throw it, you want to get caught and stuff. What we don't want, though, is to have to limit ourselves to very specific edge cases where you can then lodge a grappling hook into a structure, pull on it, and then hook it. That seems A, very complicated to try and code into the game, and B, like it'll massively detract from the fun. I want something where I can point at a wall and zip straight to it, regardless of whether the wall has edges on it or not. So for that reason, I think something like a more piercing kind of structure, your traditional pointed like that, spear tip if you will, with a simple attachment and fixture point. Now, all good grappling hooks either have a chain or a rope attached or something along those lines, and my default feeling for version 1 is just to tie that on in some capacity. I don't even know how close it's going to need to be to an actual working model by the time it's rendered in. It's probably going to be a fractional element of the game, but it is something that I value. So thinking something along the lines of a traditional spear-like grapple with 3 sides to it. I feel like 3 points into the tip will look the cleanest, give us the most versatility. As you can tell, I'm not very good at 3D drawing, but that's why I put 3D modeling, because I'm a damn sight better at making a 3D model than I am at making it with a sketch pad or a pen and paper. Right, so my software of choice. I know some people are really good with things like Blender, but as someone who is a mechanical engineer by trade, I use Fusion 360 and other CAD programs, SolidWorks and the like, but this is one that I've subscribed to. So I've got my grappling hook file here already nice and open, and I'm just going to start modeling. So components. So we want the main shaft of the hook first, and then I'm going to create that as a separate component to the actual spikes, and that way if I want to vary them, change them out at any point, it's going to be much easier to do that way. So I'm going to put this as the shaft of the hook, and we'll base that as what's going to be easier to do, probably a circular shaft straight up. So let's click a vertical plane, pop the shaft in like that. Now let's think, for a grappling hook, now it is a fantasy game, it doesn't have to be real, but if I say, for example, that sort of size for a shaft, that's a guitar slide, say 20mm diameter, seems like a reasonable shaft size, and then you want what, 300mm? That way we can align this thing along the forearm of the character, they can fire it out. That seems like a good starting point. I'm going to make that 300 mil total. Now, of course, if there is any spikes and tines to come off the character, I'll be beyond the wrist section, so I'll have to either offset it from the arm or something like that, but we'll burn that bridge when we come to it. So let's have a quick look now. So far, we have a 300 mil shaft. Easy. Now, from here, let's add in that hook. So on this plane here, how could do this a couple of ways. I think I'm going to take that plane and this one as well. I will create a simple circle. It's confined by that, so that's going to be 20 mil in diameter. Touching up against there, tangential to that. Boom. So that's the shape of the end of our tine. We're probably going to want to cut off that section and that section there. Why is that mobile? Ah, it's not tangential to that line. There we go. It's a fixed shape now. Do half size for now. 10 mil inner diameter, and then lastly we'll just create an arbitrary 30 mil diameter circle to make sure we can cut out these sections. What we're going to do is, firstly, we are going to full-on construction line. Take that, cut that, both sides symmetrical through all. Boom. Curve off the bottom of that piece. But we'll keep that sketch visible so we can use the rest of it as well. What we'll do is hide that body for a second so we can nice and easily select these sections. What we're going to do is the same thing again. We'll cut those out of the body. So on two symmetrical, cut all the way through. So now we have a hole penetrating straight through the center of this, which we can then feed our rope through, which is going to be 10 mil diameter approximately. We can always scale this at a later date. That's not going to be an issue. So with that in mind, hide that off there. Yeah, that looks pretty good as the starting point. I don't want to get too caught up in the details already, but I really don't like these hard edges here. I don't like the look of that at all. You see it shaded with visible edges. It's just not pleasant to look at. So what I'm going to do, quickly fillet those, and it's not going to like that because I put too much material off. Seems a little excessive. 2.5. Yeah, that looks like it's been, someone's actually cared about it when they've made it, or alternatively it's like it's been fairly well worn. For all, you wouldn't want to cut yourself to pieces on your own grappling hook. That would make you feel really silly. I'm probably overthinking this because this is a lot of detail for a very small model, so I'm actually going to leave that off for now. On the base, in fact, I'm going to remove that fillet as well on the basis that this is not part of the character model. This is a fleeting instance that's going to be lodged into a wall somewhere, and less is more with this sort of detail, isn't it? This is unnecessary. If anything, I probably didn't even need to cut the bottom off it. Probably just could have left it as a flat object. How would it look without that? Drop that cut in first. You know what? For all intents and purposes right now, let's leave it as simple as can be. That just seems to be the optimal design. Right now, let's get another plane going. If we look at this from the front, let's look at it from the right hand side. There we go. Keep it simple every time. Now this plane here that we're stuck on now should be the center of that. Excellent, it is. What we're going to do is we're going to take that point there, take that line as well to be on the safe side, and make that as a center, if you will, for our blade. So how far back along the shaft do we want this to be versus how tall do we want the spike to be? Let's play around with some numbers and make it work. So if we do 150mm total, if we do a 50mm rear set and 100mm in front, so 50 there, then another 100 up that way. That seems fairly reasonable to me. We'll make that a center line. Make that a solid line. And we're going to come down from that 50mm offset with a new line. And here, well, we can turn this into a classic 3-4-5 triangle if we want, or something along those lines. You can either make it a nice wide spike or make it a narrow, tall spike. For the sake of argument, let's make this a 3-4-5 triangle because it'll just fit all the better. Although it's 150 over 4, 37.5. It's not a nice number. Let's make this 60, 160 tall. Then we can make this, oh, back you go, 160 tall divided by 4 will be 40 per unit, 40 times 3 make that 120. Is that right? And then from there to there would be your 5. That doesn't seem like an aggressive enough angle. That looks quite plain actually. No, 3-4-5 triangle isn't going to be nearly enough. Let's halve that so make it 80. It's a little bit more aggressive, isn't it? 35. Do I want that to be higher? It's very aware that this is now becoming a very tall spike. Maybe the shaft's not long enough. Don't overthink it. Let's get this done. From there to there, in like that. It's now got a very narrow intersection on here currently. Bring that down a little bit more. 60. Yeah, that'll do. We'll take that. We'll extend that out by 1.5mm either side. And that is a foot, not a joint. You genius. Join. Oh, new body. I've committed a cardinal sin here. I forgot to make a new component, so we're still editing this as if it was the shaft, but what we actually want to do is make this the head. Then what we're going to do is take that body and drop that in there, along with that sketch. There we go. So now we're creating this new component here. Right. Let's see how this looks in a minute. It's either going to be terrible or awesome. So I'll create a rotational pattern, circular pattern if you will. That body around that axis. Ooh, there we go. That looks quite vicious actually. And the only thing we've got to do is just tidy these points up here because with the overlapping, I mean, you could consider that quite an aggressive style, I guess, but I'm not a fan of this shape here. So what I'm going to do is take these bodies, merge them together. Okay, now we've got that singular arrowhead. Like that. Split the body. Use these as the splitting tool, so we'll do that 3 times. Each time using that face of the splitter. Now we have this one central body with all 3 spikes on it, and we have these little off-cut pieces here, which we'll simply remove. There we go. How does that look? Pretty vicious. Okay. Now, we'll just render all that in together for a moment. Looking better. Not sure I'm a fan of how this looks. This looks pretty naff. We chamfer this back by 5 mil. They look a bit more like they're supposed to be there. 10. Too much. That looks like it joins ridiculously. I'll weld it up around there. 7.5. Looks clean. In fact, that 8 makes me very happy. Let's do that. Okay. Pretty wicked. Right. At a later date, I want to throw a material or physical properties onto there. I can do, but right now, that's probably going to do for the head of the grappling hook. Awesome. Hello, editor Ian here. I got to record an outro for that video. I just sort of tailed off into making sure my first ever stream had gone well, and I forgot to say all the usual stuff. So if you like this, drop a like and hit subscribe if you want to see some more maybe in the future. And thanks for watching. Bye bye.